Hi everyone, I'm Marcus Ransom, Apple Solution Architect here at CompNow. This webinar was pre-recorded before JNUC 2021, so even though the name Wandera will no longer be used, the products are the same and will continue to provide great organisational security. Take it away, Chris.
Welcome, my name is Chris O'Reilly and I'm the National Pre-Sales Team Leader with CompNow. Today's webinar is about security and keeping your end users safe online, whether they are at home, at school or at the office. I'm joined by Mark Padginton from Jamf to give us an overview of Jamf as an Apple enterprise management platform. Alongside Mark, we have Lloyd from Wandera to give us a solution to modernising our security strategy. Firstly, I want to start with a quick outline of CompNow. We are Australia's largest commercial and education Apple reseller and integrator, and we are specialists in managing the hybrid working environment. We also have a great depth across the business to facilitate the end-to-end management of your organisation's devices, from purchasing through to management and repairs. CompNow and Jamf have a great relationship and have been collaborating for well over 10 years, ever since we first rolled out our Jamf instance in Australia in 2010. Now, with Wandera joining the Jamf family, their first product to include the Android platform, there are some exciting opportunities for our customers. So again, thanks for joining us. I'm really interested to hear from our guests today. Mark, take it away.
Thank you very much. And hopefully our attendees will find this of interest today. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Mark Padginton. I'm the Key Account Manager here at Jamf, and I'm joined with my new Jamf colleague from Wandera, Lloyd Thomas. And we're going to be introducing the Wandera portfolio of products to you all, and the benefits of these solutions, and what they bring to your organization, no matter the size. Just a quick agenda. We're going to cover off a quick overview of Jamf, followed by our take on what hybrid work and the modern workplace looks in 2022. We had a huge shift in 2020 in regard to how people work and engage. We'll then cover off the mobile risks and challenges we're seeing a lot of that are occurring with organizations, and how these businesses or organizations have to consider, manage, and protect their staff and their corporate information. So a quick overview on Jamf. A lot of this will likely be familiar already to some of you, having been Jamf customers. And to those that are new, thank you for joining us, and hopefully you'll find this information of interest. Jamf, for those unaware, has a simple mission: help organizations succeed with Apple. We've been working with organizations large and small across the globe for over 19 years to help them connect, manage, and protect Apple devices, and ensure the end users have the best-in-class experience in everything they do on these devices. There's an underlying mantra of getting the tech out of the way, which aligns closely with Apple's own approach to their hardware. As previously mentioned, we help organizations connect, manage, and protect their devices through Jamf's Apple Enterprise Management Platform. In today's webinar, we'll be diving into many of the challenges the enterprise faces when it comes to securely connecting users to resources, efficiently managing devices and apps, and protecting data, devices, and privacy. We'll also discuss solutions and the challenges and how Wandera and Jamf are enabling organizations to better manage these risks and compliance in the workplace today. We've been the leaders in Apple Enterprise Management for over 19 years, and currently Jamf helps more than 50,000 organizations manage more than 20 million Apple devices. The world's top banks, tech companies, and most valuable home brands, be it large or small, choose Jamf for their Apple Enterprise Management. Now let's consider how COVID has impacted the modern workplace of today, not including the mandatory stay at home that we've all experienced. 67% are now working from home in some form of capacity when compared to 40% pre-COVID. 80% of Australian companies which permit employees to work remotely expect the trend to continue through the long term. 45% of firms or businesses which permit some level of remote working generally have reported an uptick in staff well-being. And 90% of Australians surveyed want to keep working from home in some capacity. In a recent Mobile Security Index 2020 report, Where Wandera's mobile dataset and analytics featured, it mentions that 71% indicated that mobile technology is crucial to their business and staff. 40% consider that mobile devices are more security concern to the organization. 97% of remote workers pose a higher risk to organizational security. Consider this and possibly your own work from home environment. Many home networks do not have a reliable firewall. The home internet connection is accessed by all, many on devices that are not securely patched, including kids gaming and using social sites such as Discord to send and receive unsecured files, through to the working parents, which unfortunately have admitted to accessing work email on a shared common device. The mobile device has become the first device the majority of Australians reach for in the morning, and in many cases is the last that they use before or whilst in bed. There's been considerable increase in cybersecurity threats playing off the anxiety and confusion around COVID. ScamWatch Australia has received over 6,415 scam reports mentioning the coronavirus. Scams reported to ScamWatch have cost Australians over $70 million in the first half of 2021. Mobile is the most common contact mode used with scams and is a key focus from bad actors. In the recent Office of the Australian Information Commissioner's Notifiable Data Breach Report, dated from January to June 2021, 43% of all data breaches are a result of cybersecurity incidents. The top sources of cyber incidents are phishing, which is 30%, compromised or stolen credentials, a method unknown, 27%, and ransomware is 24%. A wide range of global surveys all point to 90% of data breaches begin with a phishing attack. Mobile users are 26 times more likely to click on a phishing link. Compromised mobile apps and social networking sites account for 40% of the known scams. Mobile phishing is the bad actors' new approach and are targeting services like smishing, SMS phishing, and applications such as WhatsApp and Facebook. Cybersecurity Industry Advisory Committee Annual Report of 2021 highlights that Australia's fastest growing threat is ransomware. I'd like to hand over to Lloyd.
Thanks, Mark. Certainly some interesting statistics there. What I'll be exploring over the next few slides is exactly how organizations can look to tackle this new hybrid way of work from a security perspective. Now, I'm sure it's no surprise to everyone joining the webinar today that this concept of having an enterprise perimeter or that old castle and moat approach to protect an organization's data is no longer fit for this modern workforce. And this has largely been driven by some key trends. We know that users are remote and increasingly on mobile endpoints. And as Mark mentioned, the majority of employees are no longer tethered to their desks behind the office. But it's not only the users and the devices that now sit outside of the corporate network, it's also the applications and data, which are largely being hosted in the cloud and also on-prem. So you can quickly see how that perimeter-based protection is inadequate for today. So it's for this reason that organizations are assessing a zero trust security model, which throws away the idea of having a trusted user or network and instead assumes everything is untrusted. And a bit later in this presentation, I'll be walking you through how to enable a zero trust model using technology such as Wandera, which is now part of the Jamf family. Now, before I do that, I do want to highlight some of the common challenges and risks to the enterprise today. And we'll start with the number one threat vector, which is phishing, which many of you will know cause 90% of data breaches. One of the simple reasons why phishing has been so successful, specifically on mobile, is because attacks can originate outside of corporate email, like Mark mentioned, within SMS, WhatsApp, or any other messaging platforms. And hackers have quickly recognized that there are multiple avenues to launch an attack. And in light of the recent flu-bot spyware that's rapidly hit Australia in recent weeks, I'm sure almost everyone listening today has experienced some form of SMS phishing attack. Now, what's interestingly, we analyze millions of the devices that are using our service, and we often analyze the data to see what are the 20 most impersonated brands, which you can see on the screen here. In the past, most of the phishing activity was really targeting consumers, where we saw a lot of banks or social media companies being impersonated. However, over the last 12 months, our data shows that corporate credentials are increasingly being targeted. Whether it's Microsoft or Google or Apple for that matter, these brands have quickly made their way to the top of the list. So it's no surprise where hackers are focusing their attention. A good example of social engineering is exactly what's happened during the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our data shows a significant spike in terms of phishing campaigns that were related to COVID-19's. Campaigns looking to impersonate the World Health Organization, the Department of Health here in Australia, or specific local governments to really take advantage of users when they're most vulnerable. And this is a good example of how attackers are looking to adapt their strategies to the interest of their targets. Now, as we look beyond phishing, we also see a range of other threat vectors that are applicable to mobiles. And what you'll quickly notice from this slide is that mobiles is much like any other traditional endpoint, such as a laptop or desktop, that have heavily been invested in security software. Threats can reside on the device through the form of risky configurations or profiles, as well as malicious applications. We also see threats that can be delivered via the network. For example, over public Wi-Fi networks through man-in-the-middle compromise, phishing, or any other form of malicious network traffic which looks to steal data from the device. So it's really important to consider a multi-layered approach to mitigate all of these threats shown on the screen. Another challenge for organizations, which again falls on end users, is how employees are using their corporate devices now that remote work is here to stay. What you can see from this chart is Wandera's data showing trends in user browsing habits on corporate devices over 2 periods. The first line shows trends in usage before the pandemic, and the blue line shows shortly after the pandemic when everyone was forced to work from home. And we see that users were 4 times more likely to access inappropriate content, specifically illegal, extreme, and adult categories that is traditionally being blocked within the corporate firewall. So it's really important to consider that managing usage-based risk for remote workers is part of a comprehensive security strategy. And as a result, we're seeing many organizations now sit down to understand their strategies and look to extend their content filtering policies and acceptable use from desktops and the firewall down to these remote worker devices. We also see a range of other threats, such as excessive data usage, where customers often want to manage their data pools or prevent overages, both domestic and roaming. And you need to have a solution to manage these challenges without impacting user performance. So I'm going to transition now away from the user risk to how organizations traditionally have enabled employees to access business applications. And as I alluded to at the start, the concept of remote access has become a challenge for many organizations, largely driven by fundamental flaws in the legacy VPN technologies. One critical flaw of VPN is that it is insecure by design. VPNs typically connect users to entire network segments that house multiple applications. And that means that any user or attacker who is able to get access to the network can access all of the applications. And this concept of lateral movement is a big concern for many organizations. Secondly, almost every organization I speak to is recognizing that their VPN is extremely complex to manage. It's dependent on physical hardware, certificates, and sophisticated configurations mean that many organizations often require a dedicated team to manage. And last but not least, often an overlooked flaw with VPNs is their impact on productivity. Just about everyone I speak to has experienced the low connection speeds associated with SSL or IPsec protocol VPNs and the impact they have on connectivity. These tools weren't designed with end users in mind. It's for this reason that many organizations are looking for a change today. And this is with this in mind, from cyber risk to the user risks and challenges with remote access, what we'll discuss over the next few slides is how organizations can really look to modernize their security strategy with a zero trust model in mind. And essentially, what you can see on the screen here is users who are eager to be productive, and they want to make sure that we empower them to access applications and data from anywhere and on any device. So how do you do that with a zero trust model in mind? The important thing here is that zero trust looks to use a process of verification to build up trust as the user connects to their business apps. So what are some of the factors that you need to consider? Firstly, it's important to look at whether the device is sanctioned to connect to business data. So really making sure that you've got a clear concept of what is sanctioned device, whether it's managed or some form of BYOD, it's important to have a compliance policy in place. We then want to make sure that we're looking at the user and are they authorized to access the data in the first place? Identity management tools such as Azure AD or Okta, for example, provide the fundamental components in building out a zero trust strategy, because you can no longer assume that it's appropriate to authorize users based on devices. We really need to make sure that we understand the worker is, or at least the worker's role, to ensure that the access is in line with company policy. Thirdly, we can think about making sure that the device isn't just sanctioned, but we also recognize that it's free of risk. And of course, any device that is compromised should not be granted access to that sensitive data. So that risk posture of the device is incredibly important. And finally, we'll look at whether the connections from the device are in compliance with regulations and acceptable use policies that the organization has defined. So in summary, in order to enable a true zero trust strategy, users need to go through a strict process of verification, no matter where they connect from, looking at the device itself, the role they assume, the potential risks and threats that could impact the data, and finally, the usage policy. And if all factors are met, only then does a user get granted to their applications and data to be productive. So that brings us nicely onto the Wandera solution, which looks to enhance Jamf's security capabilities. This slide looks to provide a bird's eye view on our security approach, which is tailored for organizations that are really looking to embrace this hybrid way of work. As you can see, Wandera is a cloud-delivered security solution. And through the cloud, we have three pillars of functionality that really look end-to-end from the device through to the applications. And I'll walk through each of these very quickly. Firstly, we have our threat defense offering, which is a focus here on mobiles and tablets. Wandera is a leader in MTD category by Gartner, with security capabilities that reside both on the device as well as in the network to prevent all threat vectors. By applying machine learning via RIAM, which is our advanced threat intelligence engine, the service will detect all known and zero-day threats to ensure devices are protected. The service also supports any device, whether it's an iOS or Android device, so you can really start to think about getting a consistent security baseline across all your workers' devices. We then have a service called Data Policy, and you can really think about this as a secure web gateway for remote workers, covering all network traffics, both cellular and Wi-Fi. With this tool, you get category-based content filtering, as well as real-time usage reporting across both applications and browser. And that means you can solve a whole bunch of different use cases, such as enforcing that acceptable use policy, or even use it for shadow IT discovery and cost saving. The solution also has very flexible controls in that you can define policies by user group or even by connection type. And lastly, we have our very exciting zero trust network access solution called Private Access. Again, a recognized ZTNA solution by Gartner. This product is a modern replacement to legacy VPN to provide your users with fast and secure connectivity to any business application, whether they're hosted on-premise or in the cloud. What's unique about this service is that the solution provides real-time risk assessments so that you can ensure only secured and sanctioned devices get access to your business apps. It also supports all modern operating systems from iOS, macOS, Android, and Windows 10, so you can provide a consistent security layer and connectivity to all your users and devices. And finally, the solution is identity-centric, meaning it removes the need for PKI or certificate management completely by tying in with your identity provider and enabling that single sign-on experience. It also doesn't require device management for the solution to work, so something to consider not only for employees, but for contractors and BYOD users who traditionally have been deemed a challenge for IT and security teams to enable remote access. And finally, I just want to touch on our integrations. The solution works really well with device management, such as Jamf, of course. However, no matter what UEM you're using, whether it's Intune or Workspace ONE, we've got integrations there to streamline deployments and activations. We also integrate with IDP for single sign-on and group and policy mapping, and we support just about every security operations tool that you can think of, whether it's SIEM, SOAR, or EDR, to help incorporate the data and policy response. So lots of cool options here to embed the product with the other tools that you're currently working with. Now I'll hand it over to Mark to round out the final session.
Thanks, Lloyd. So as you would have heard, a combination of Jamf and Wandera will provide your organization with a comprehensive management platform. Having Wandera as a member of the Jamf family and being able to integrate that into Jamf, the Jamf's platform, will ensure that Wandera provides an end-to-end security solution for Mac, iOS, Android, and Windows. It enables fast, simple, and secure zero-trust network access to any corporate resource, user-friendly for both device user and your platform's management team. Just like to say thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, we're here to answer those. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Mark and Lloyd. What a great overview of Wandera. I trust we've piqued your interest with the information provided today. So what are the next steps? Perhaps a discovery session with our team and yours to see how Wandera can fit into your environment, or maybe you already know that you want to start a trial of Wandera for yourself. Either way, get in touch with your account manager or email info@compnow.com.au. Thank you very much.